I am your father.
Greetings, citizens of the rebellion. This is another mini episode of the Star Wars Hour brought to you by ChannelStarWars.com. I'm your host, Brian, and with me today, in lieu of my inimitable co-host, is Brian Fulton, who you may recognize by his working title of Darth Daddy. Brian's a crafter, customizer, Dr. Frankenstein at large of Star Wars toys, both large and small. If you don't follow him already, you should check him out now. This is going to be a toy-intensive talk, so brace yourself. Remember, kids, the secret number is 12, so call in when you hear me say Palpatine for the 12th time, and you could win a prize. So settle in, buckle up, take your nutrition pellet, because we're talking toys with Darth Daddy. Brian, welcome to the show. Thanks for being aboard.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So you are the owner, manager, president, co-founder, sole founder of Darth Daddy is the Facebook page folks can find you at?
No, I guess for the Facebook page, it would be customsforthekid.blogspot.com.
Okay, gotcha. Customsforthekid.blogspot.com. And you, which kid? Is this start as a labor of love for your own child and has blossomed into a business? Tell us your story.
Yeah, it actually did start from my child. He was a longtime Star Wars collector. I think he started collecting Star Wars figures when he was about 4. And he was totally taken with every film, and he just really got into the 3 3/4 action figures. And probably he had been collecting, I would say, about 2 years. And I was on eBay. I was looking for stuff for probably his birthday or something. And I came across some custom Star Wars action figures from an artist that at the time went by Jack of Trades. And he had actually had a Star Wars custom action figure blog. So I think I purchased about 3 action figures from him. And when we got them at home here, my son Elias was really taken with them, and he was like, "Dad, can we make Star Wars custom action figures?" And I was like, "Man, you're crazy. I can't do that." I just didn't think it was something, it wasn't even on my radar. And I kind of said no, and he kind of came back and he said, "Dad, we can do this." He was like, "I believe in you. Just start, and I know you'll finish." And I wanted to be a good role model and kind of show that you could do things that you think are impossible. So he had 2 Star Wars characters that he invented that he used to draw pretty much every day in different scenarios. So I decided I would try and make his 2 characters into action figures.
Okay.
So I went to yakface.com, and there is a moderator there named Chewy, and there was quite a number of really talented customizers. At the time, I think Peak Obi-Wan Custom Creations was there, Luke Sprywalker. There was an artist that went by Incom. There was just a lot of really talented artists, and they took me under their wing and they taught me the basics. And I started customizing. I had made the 2 action figures for my son of the characters that he invented. And
tell us about these characters. Are we talking Sith, Jedi? What are we working with?
They were both Jedi.
Okay, good parenting.
One was like a Twi'lek human hybrid that he had made, and the other one, I forget the name of the species. It was a fox.
Did you watch the Rebels TV show with your son?
Well, he's older now. He's actually 14, so he kicked off with the Clone Wars.
I'm 44. I watch Rebels.
Oh yeah, no, we did watch Rebels, but
so he must have been pretty happy.
Love of Star Wars started during the Clone Wars era.
Okay, nice. Well, I was just going to say he was pretty ahead of his time, because as far as I know, there is not a canonical Twi'lek human hybrid until the last episode of Rebels.
I know, right? Although his definitely looks a lot more Twi'lek than the Rebels one.
Yeah, I think the Leku grow in over time, but that's Hera and Kanan's kid, and of course we've already seen online speculation that kid is.
Well, they had the LaQuaine kids too.
Oh,
but supposedly, from what I read, the LaQuaine children are not Cut LaQuane's kids. He's more like a stepfather. And I don't know what the heritage of their real father is, but they did have that human Twi'lek appearance. And I know the son had very short Leku.
That's interesting to me. So do you how to put this? Are you a sculptor or are you just reassembling parts of
I'm a
existing
sculptor.
figures? Okay.
Yeah,
What kind of
I
tools do you
started
use for
off, I
that?
think, with just part swaps and repaints. And probably, I would say I started jumping into the sculpting in less than a year of customizing. I just figured just dive right in and, you know, you get better at with time. I think the thing that I wish I knew initially was that sanding your sculpt is just as important as making the sculpt. And because there's a lot of refining that needs to take place to improve your sculpt. And there's a lot of people I see, like, you can still see their fingerprints in the sculpt, or sometimes the sculpt is rough, but a little bit of sanding with like a nail file, or they have like these sanding sticks, things like that can really
Sure.
improve your final result.
And of course, your son being mostly in the 3 3/4 scale, is that what you work with exclusively, or have you gone outside of that range?
Yeah, it is exclusive. Like, probably when they went over to 5 POA and they started reducing the articulation, we boycotted the 6-inch just because we didn't want to lose what we had achieved in the 3 3/4 inch line.
Right.
So we're really excited now that the vintage line is coming back.
Yeah, that is exciting. I was, I think, it was a couple years ahead of you. I'm 44, so I was of age to have the very first run of figures. No knees, no elbows, just shoulders and hips moving. Now, I was a G.I. Joe kid as well. Did you? I guess you said you only got into this to support your kid.
You and I are the same age.
Okay, yeah. You said you got into this to support Elias, is his name, you said?
Oh, Elias.
Elias, sorry. So you got into to support him, but so were you one of these kids who disassembled G.I. Joe figures when you were little? Because we always had, like Cobra Commander's pants on Zartan's torso kind of stuff.
I repaired them. Like if the black rubber band broke,
right,
I would grab my stepmother had TMJ. So she had braces when we were, even though she was an adult. So I used to like steal her dental rubber bands.
Oh yeah, that's
and
funny.
I used to fix my G.I. Joes. I would just take the rubber band and I'd put like 10 on there.
Mm-hmm.
That way it would be the same thickness instead of just one, dental rubber band. But yeah,
I like that. That's funny. My G.I. Joe friend was also a model painter. So whenever one of us got a new figure, we'd open it up, and of course, collectors out there will tear their hair out to hear this, but we'd take the figure out of the package and then he'd paint it. So you don't have Gung Ho the Marine with this milky white complexion. Like let's make him look as though he's been outdoors once or twice in his career. So they always had tan skin tone, scars, tattoos. That's fun. How about this Jabba sail barge? Are you following the news on that at all? Because that's in that.
Oh yeah, I got my email, I think, this morning.
Oh, you supported it. That's cool.
Oh yeah, I had to. I would say, I wouldn't say we're as far as like completionists.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we have every character that's been released represented in the house and more.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the vehicles, he probably has, I would say, 80% of the vehicles, and he has a lot of the old vintage play sets and a lot of the old vintage. He has a few vintage figures, and but I would say the bulk. He has a lot. He really does.
Sure. And 14 is maybe a little old to still be playing Star Wars. There's like that. I like to say there's a gap between the ages of 14 and 30 when you don't play with toys and you kind of come back to it in your 30s. Is he in that dry spell, or is he still?
It's funny. He never really played with the toys. Like, he's customized quite a bit.
That counts as playing, not necessarily, acting out space battles in the living room kind of stuff. But yeah, everyone plays in different ways. I mean, the way I play with my toys is I rearrange them periodically and put them on the shelf, and every once in a while I'll add a new one. And we have a little tea party when I get a new Palpatine. All the other Palpatines have to welcome him into the party. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's pretty cool. I'm sure you have had the same stories, but every time I travel for a living and every time I get to a new town, I'm always saying, where's the vintage toy stores? Where's the antique stores, like the consignment? These consignment antique malls, I guess they call it, where it's 40 or 50 people have rented out space in this one building, and then the proprietor of the space just sells stuff for them on consignment. Are you familiar with that layout?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I'm always like, where's your Star Wars guys booth? And I'm sort of to the point where I no longer listeners to the show, and I think we talked about this as well, Brian, but listeners to the show will know that I'm a big Palpatine collector. I've got 35 different Palpatines represented on my shelf. I'm to the point where I can no longer impulse purchase a Palpatine. If there's a Palpatine I don't have, it is because it is a $200+ collector's item or whatnot. So it's getting a little hard to just stroll into a shop and find one. But one of my favorite finds last year, I was up visiting my wife's grandmother, obviously with my wife, and my wife has a young cousin who is just now graduating high school, and he kind of grew up in that house. So the whole downstairs was basically the kids' playroom, and it's still this kind of shrine to the early 90s era of Star Wars toys. So I'm just sort of casually strolling around like, any black robes around here? And you got to hand it to the kid. He hadn't played with this stuff in years, but his toys were, each figure was in a Ziploc bag with its, accompanying, the accoutrements, whatever lightsaber gun stand it came with. And I was like, oh, look at that. Here's a Palpatine in a bag that I don't have. I'm going to go ahead and take that home with me. My wife's like, yeah, he doesn't need it. Of course, cut to 10 minutes later, his mom just happens to drop by and sees me, furtively dusting off this Palpatine. Like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm taking this is what I'm doing. You don't need it. She was fine with that. The Rancor, the vintage Rancor that I was also going to take with me, didn't make it out. She actually took that back with her. I'm like, she didn't need that. But anyway, that's the fun of collecting, is finding something you've not heard of. Just last month, I was out in Fort Worth doing a feature at the Holocron Toy Store in Fort Worth, Texas, and I walked in thinking I was, big king of the Palpatine club. And before I made one lap of the store, I saw 4 different Palpatines, 3 of which I didn't know existed, and 2 of which I'd never seen on a shelf before. So naturally, they're all on my shelf right now.
I really love the one that came in the 3-pack.
Yeah, they've just released that. Now. They've just released that on its own too. The 3-pack was the Target exclusive, but now it's weird because it's in Last Jedi packaging now. If I'm correct, I
think it might be. I haven't seen it in carded though anywhere in the wild yet.
It's a really nice mold to it. It's one of my favorites. Of course, I have the mail-in one that's basically just an old lady in a dress, essentially.
Oh yeah,
like he's barely in Empire Strikes Back, so they were just guessing.
I have so many versions of Palpatine. It's crazy.
Yeah, we'll have to trade pictures. I'll have to send you a few of my collector's shots there just to see if there's anything. My newest, I think rarest find I've got yet is I have a Muppet Palpatine from the Muppet Show. I think I saw.
Oh, that's cool.
And that's the figure is Uncle Deadly. Do you remember the blue gargoyle, kind of tendrils on his beak kind of thing? He's Palpatine. He came as a playset with Gonzo as Darth Vader naturally, and a chicken as an Imperial Guard. So like a little Muppet chicken with a red helmet on it. And I didn't even know this one existed. They made a Transformers series. I did know that was the case, but I thought the Transformers series was very limited edition. There's a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Darth Vader that transforms into the Death Star. But I did not know there's an Imperial shuttle that transforms into Palpatine. So yeah, gotta bring that home with me. Come on now. So with that in mind, do you do that kind of, like flea market combing type stuff to look for raw materials, or do you generally?
I do. I don't do it often. I mean, I'm at the point where I have, I guess what we call in the customizing community, we call parts fodder. But I have enough fodder to last me probably 10 years of customizing.
Well, like any collector, I speculate that doesn't mean that you've stopped collecting, right?
No. We still have been getting, and we still add to the fodder too. It's not
sure. So you don't work to a specific goal, like you just like, oh, this might come in handy type stuff.
Yeah, like when the Black Series figures just went on clearance at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
I think I bought like 40 of them because they were like $5 each.
Oh yeah.
But that's a lot of joints and,
sure.
Yeah, a lot to work with.
Lots of hoods. Do you do any work with have you ever worked with the Lego stuff? I have one of my Palpatines is a Lego Palpatine that came in the Lego Dark Side source book.
No, I don't like Legos.
Yeah, fair enough. A lot of people don't. They really hurt when you step on them. And
I mean, my son does collect them. He usually keeps most of them at his mother's house. He has a very small Lego collection here, but it's strictly Jabba's palace, the skiff,
So is he a Jabba fan? Does he have something he concentrates on? I'm interested in what your son is involved in.
I would say he has an expansive taste where he basically collects everything. He has expanded universe. He has
Oh, okay, yeah.
stuff from the animated series, even as far back as like droids figures and
Oh,
Ewok
wow.
figures, and he
Do you
really
guys do you guys read the comics at all?
we do.
I really want them to make a droid style Saturday morning cartoon, except starring BT0 and BT1 and 000.
That'd be fun.
I made a promotional still for it. I'll be sending you a bunch of pictures when we get done here.
Sounds good.
With sort of pursuant to asking what your son collects. So this Jabba sail barge was a $500 investment, and that's quite a piece of that's quite a chunk of change there to drop down a toy. Is this for you, or is it for him, or is this a joint venture? You guys are going to share custody?
It's for him. Like, I'm hoping one day that when he moves out, I won't have to worry about moving this stuff ever again.
Oh yeah, well, because he's not allowed to take it.
No, I mean, well,
he'll
he
take it with
doesn't
you.
want to bring it to his mom's house because he's afraid she'll sell it.
Yeah, I think we've all had that moment.
Yeah,
That was my Boba
so
Fett on the
at
card,
this,
Mom. All right, go ahead.
yeah, exactly. So at this point, I kind of have to. I don't think I'm taking it with me in the immediate, um, but eventually it is going to have its final resting home is going to be on the West Coast.
Sure. Interesting. Well, I don't have a child myself who is of age to play with stuff, but I do have a 10-week-old daughter who I'm really looking forward to introducing to Star Wars. You've got some amazing pieces on your site, and we're going to share this on the Facebook page, folks, and on our Twitter as well. The level of detail in really any of the toys that come off the shelf is really impressive. But then to see some of the stuff that you've done with it, is there a piece that you would say is kind of your masterpiece, your showpiece? I see that your icon here is a really nice Mother Talzin. Do you do any work with or do you have anything that you brag on? What's the first thing you introduce people to when you're like, this is what I do for a living?
I usually keep it hush hush, and I don't talk about it all that much. I would
Breaking news here on
say,
channelstarwars.com.
yeah,
You're gonna keep it hush hush. That's all right. Okay.
Like, I think over time, like I ended up, I guess, getting some recognition for it. Maybe a few years ago, like we did get featured over at Star Wars Celebration Anaheim.
Oh wow.
They had a Star Wars custom action figure panel, and there was like a small handful of artists that were featured, and we were fortunate enough to be artists that were selected for that.
It's a niche market.
It is very much so. I'm surprised that we have gotten the recognition that we have just because it is such a small community, and the small collectors community. I mean, it really is one of those fan bases where everybody actually knows everyone for the most part. Like, if you see a piece, like, I could tell right away whose it is. And part of the reason why might be because I've been featuring Star Wars custom action figure artists from all over the world on my blog. Like, as much as we do make things of our own, I try to promote friends in the community just as much.
That's great. I think a rising tide raises all boats. That's a really good way to approach it.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of really talented people, and where I think a lot of artists do a lot of self promotion, I try to do a lot of community promotion instead, and even make it a resource for people who may not make their own action figures, but they like to collect them, and I try to give them as much information as possible, as far as like, here's a small body of this artist's work, where I'll do a little video of each artist. I'll put all their contact information. I'll give them links so they can see where to follow these artists in the future. Anytime they have any type of kit offerings, I'll try to advertise those on my blog. And I do all that for free. I mean, it's more for the love of the art.
Sure.
And wanting to see it continue, and, wanting to get pieces out there, because, one artist can't make everything that's cool. And, if people start casting their stuff and making things available, I want people to have access to that.
Right.
And I'll even put tutorial videos on the blog. So if you have no experience and this is something that you're really interested in, you can go to the blog, or we even have a YouTube channel where people can go, and on the YouTube channel we have those videos.
And
We
what's
have
that YouTube
tutorial
channel?
videos. The what?
What's that YouTube channel?
Customs for the Kid. I
Okay.
think it's all one word. Yeah, it is. And on there, I even have a show that I do with another Star Wars action figure artist called Peak Obi-Wan Custom Creations, and we do a show called Customizing the Clone Wars. And
Oh
what we
yeah, I've
do.
actually seen an episode or two of that.
Oh, no way, really?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
customize
that's
the Clone
cool.
Wars. I've seen it linked on. As you might imagine, I'm a member of maybe 3 dozen different Star Wars groups. Which is, speaking of it being a small community, I get that sometimes, like, just on Facebook. Like, how many people use Facebook, and how many people like Star Wars? But so many people that I could list 3, 4 names that I'm in like 10 groups. And
Yep.
then this one guy will share an article, and then he'll share it on 3 or 4 different groups, and now I'm mad at him. Will you
Yeah.
stop spamming my? Oh no, it's not that you've shared it 5 times; it's that you're in 5 different groups that I'm also in. But yeah, you
Oh
you
yeah,
get to
they
see
must
like,
really hate me because I tried any group I'm in. Back when I used to do I used to do maybe 2 or 3 posts a week on the blog, and now that I'm going to be moving, I've now I'm down to maybe 2 posts a month
sure, this
until
galaxy has
things
to come first,
settle.
I think.
But yeah, I was definitely one of the abusers of like trying to at least let people who do go to our blog, you know, let them know that there's a new post for the week. Or
Right, of course. Just in case you're not following. We do that as well. Whenever a new podcast comes out, when a new episode drops, I'll share it on our Facebook page, and I'll share that post to a couple different groups. And there's algorithms you have to kind of take into consideration. Like, let's not share the same link 10 times in 10 minutes with the same, hey, check out our podcast, the same, like, so I'll try to space it out, 2 an hour or so, just to make sure. Because,
yeah,
it's as much as we enjoy the audience that we have, we've always want to meet more people. And it's hard to come across with like, hey, I have a sincere belief that you will enjoy this product, which is free. And
yeah,
so, I hate to come across, I've been a salesman. I've sold knives in people's homes. I was a Navy recruiter. Like, I know how annoying salespeople can be. But, for me to just say, hey, this is a really quality episode, you can love this, check it out. But just one time wasn't careful. And I ended up getting, blocked from posting for, 48 hours. And it hurt. It hurt my heart. I can't post on Facebook for 48 hours. How will I know I'm alive?
yeah.
You mentioned that you do a lot of sculpting. Did you start with just reassembling, or did you get right into the sculpting figures?
I started off with repaints and what they call kit bashing. When you some people use heat guns. We at home here use the boil and pop method. I just feel that's better for popping figures at the waist. The heat gun, you could potentially melt a figure when you're
Oh,
trying to
okay.
pop the waist joint.
Huh.
Some of they do have a short line of figures for a while there where they were gluing the torso together. So you may have to pop that apart with a razor blade or an X-Acto knife. But that's basically how I started. I would say maybe 6 months into customizing. There was an artist that went by Sithfire 30, and he was doing these amazing Star Wars sculpts. And even though I didn't really have a solid art background or any sculpting experience, I just decided, let me give this a try and see what I can do. And you may start off by just doing hair or facial hair or, you know, certain accessories. But then over time, you get a little braver and you take on more complex projects. And I was probably making an action figure a week for about 7.5 years.
Wow.
So it's one of those things, practice makes perfect. I
I
mean, you
guess
do it often
10,000
enough.
hours, right?
Yeah, I think we've easily made over 350 action figures.
That is really fascinating. Do you think the advent of cheaply or at least affordably available 3D printers has changed your art at all? And at this point, someone with your level of ability with sculpting could basically just design a whole figure on a computer screen and then print out the, here's the head, the hands, and the legs, and just assemble it. Am
You
I
could. The only thing I'm
oversimplifying?
seeing a problem with the 3D printing is you don't get the joints. So you lose articulation because you're going to get a solid block, or even if you get parts, I mean, I guess you could use pin joints, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to get the rotation that you can get from a modern figure.
I guess I was envisioning ball and sockets, but yeah, that would be an issue.
I guess if you did something like, in Clone Wars, they had these Geonosian figures that almost had like a ball that went into a socket, and maybe something like that could work. But for the most part,
maybe just for faces, it'd be more helpful. Maybe not a whole figure, but if you
could be. But then you still have, like, unless you have a really good quality printer, a lot of these prints have lines in them.
Oh,
I have a material that I recently bought that's put out by hold on a second, it's right next to me. It's called XTC 3D, and it's made by Smooth On, and it's almost like a paint on resin that'll take the lines out. But I got that for a ball speeder, the Tatooine ball speeder, the white one with red and blue stripes. I had another artist that had designed something on a 3D printer, and he made the ball speeder. But just, there's always some fine lines that you'd have to sand away, or sometimes you want to get this XTC 3D to eliminate those lines before doing any painting.
Do you do any, obviously you do custom work too, but so you take commissions, I assume?
Very rarely, actually.
Okay.
One of the biggest reasons why is, and my day job, I probably put in 60 hours a week.
Yeah, that'll take some time out of your toy making ability.
Oh yeah, and then because of the blog, I used to always have to have a new figure every week, and makes hours just for a repaint. When you start getting into sculpting, you're talking 20 plus hours.
Do you only do
some?
Now, I know you started with your son's original characters. Do you ever do any just sort of like whimsical? I don't know, the analogy I would come up with. Some taxidermist will make cryptids, like you can find a jackalopes and cockatrices, that kind of thing. Have you ever seen that sort of thing? And when you mentioned the Tatooine ball speeder, I've seen a version of Luke's land speeder, which is custom painted to look like Herbie the Love Bug. It's just the land speeder.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Do you ever do anything like that?
I've seen a lot of things like that. No, I mean, for the most part, I started off where we used to just make background characters, and not even ones. They were like fan fiction, just characters we invented. We take parts, swap parts, and then when you started seeing the reduced articulation, we made a decision that we can't waste parts. If we're going to make anything else going forward, it's going to be actual Star Wars characters from content that were never produced. And basically that's the direction that we've been going in. We did a lot of characters from Clone Wars, from the later seasons, because they never were made into toy form. We started filling in things like the Cantina with characters that were never released. We did the same for like Rebels. Basically, we just started filling in holes in the collection of characters that we felt maybe should have been represented in plastic and possibly haven't yet. Or you kind of get an impression that they're probably never going to be. Someone like General Pong Krell. As much as everybody requests him, there's going to be
he's the four-armed guy with two. Does he have two or four saber staves?
He has two sabers.
Okay.
4 arms.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that gets a little much. I always thought that was funny with General Grievous, as far as it's 4 sabers is too much. You've overplayed your hand there.
Yeah.
Interesting take on that. I always just love crossovers. One of my favorite cosplay groups I saw at a Dragon Con some years ago was they did Avengers Disney steampunk crossplay. So they were all, the swap gender characters. So like, for example, Black Widow / Ariel had like a bandolier of seashell grenades, but they were like clockwork seashell grenades. And it was a dude, sort of bare chested cut with like scaly legs, but black scales. It was really, really interesting. And I'm like, how long do you just research your own character? I always think stuff like that is really interesting. Like, I'm sure you've seen the R2-D2 Hulkbuster build. Have you seen that?
No.
It's reminiscent of Iron Man's Hulkbuster armor, but it's R2-D2.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff, and I love customizing stuff. Like, that's why I wanted to talk with you about the toys, because I see so much of that in the cosplay environment. But I guess folks, maybe less so in the toy builds. But another really great character, if you look up, I mentioned 000 earlier. Years ago, a guy in Rebel Legion was making a C-3PO costume, and something went wrong in the build. I'd have to read the article, but something went wrong in the build, and like the head came out just sort of blackened. And rather than restart, he basically just made the whole suit the same way. So we had this black C-3PO outfit. And, cut to 5 years later, the Darth Vader comic introduces a black C-3PO model. Like, oh, well, let's work with this. So yeah, if you look up 000 cosplay, it's really, really impressive. And I always love stuff like that. I do some graphic work. I recolored BT1 in orange and white. Like, all right, you guys like orange and white astromechs? Okay, here's an orange and white assassin droid. I think stuff like that is fun. So I understand you don't take customs very much. So basically you just pick a character and say, I feel like making this character and just run with it. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is cool. Well, I guess I won't pester you for how much it would run me for a Palpatine, but if you ever have one laying around on the shelf there, let me know if it's available.
I've made quite a few Palpatines.
He's a popular character. You wouldn't think, like he died in 1983, and he's responsible for the downfall of the Jedi Order. Not a lot of people really feel for him, but he's my guy. I don't know. Ever since I was in 1980, I would have been 6, and big fan ever since.
We made 4 versions of him in the Clone Wars style.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that Clone Wars, the base off the shelf Clone Wars figure is a really nice piece. It's such a gorgeous sculpt.
Oh yeah, that is. That's probably where I angered the collectors, because I ended up cutting one up.
Oh yeah, that hurts my heart.
Yeah, but now it's that same figure, but he's super articulated, and I gave him a longer skirt because he's not supposed to have a short skirt in that outfit.
Right.
And so yeah, now he's got a bit more going on. And when I did that too, I ended up molding and casting his head. And it was nice. When you take that hood off, there's a full face sculpt under there.
Yeah, I've
complete with ears and everything.
Sure.
So basically, I just had to remove the hood. I, sculpted. I ended up, molding, casting the head. When I took the cast and I started sculpting hair onto them, and then I made him in royal robes. And then later on, I don't know. Do you ever see the Disco Pants 5 POA Palpatine that came out with the Yoda that was like really hideous?
Yes.
So I ended up getting that figure and I modified it. I think I took everything from the waist down the chest down completely out. But I ended up turning that figure into the Clone Wars Palpatine. I ended up dremeling out the face. I ended up swapping in the actual Darth Sidious head sculpt into that. I sculpted the hood down lower, and basically I turned it into the Darth Sidious that was, I guess, displayed in the duel between Sidious, Maul, and Savage Opress.
That is my favorite lightsaber scene on screen. I mean, even including
the great
films. When he does that backwards jump to kill Opress, he does it. Such a great laugh. No one will ever replace McDiarmid in my mind, but that is some amazing voice work that Palpatine, and hearing McDiarmid at the end of Rebels as Palpatine was
that was great
occasion for me. Well, that is really cool. Well, I'm going to let you go there, Brian, so that we can let you proceed with your day. I know that everybody listening is going to want to check out your page. So tell us again where we can find you on Facebook and on the web.
Facebook, just look for Customs for the Kid. On the web, it's www.customsforthekid.blogspot.com. Let's see, we're on Twitter as Customs for the Kid. We are on Google Plus. We're also could be found on Instagram, YouTube,
all over the web, all over the holonet.
Yeah, whatever. Tumblr. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everywhere. I think we even have something on DeviantArt, although the DeviantArt hasn't been updated in quite some time.
Yeah, you kind of need Safe Search on to look on DeviantArt. There's some. Why do they have to be fat? Like, why does it have to be an obese, naked Ahsoka? Can't I just get some quality Ahsoka artwork from it? Anyway, DeviantArt's got their own issues. All right, well, thanks again so much. And folks, we'll be posting some links to where you can find Brian's work, as well as pictures of it on the Facebook page and on our Twitter. So if you've just gotten done listening to this episode, check us out. It'll be on there live. And thanks again for your time, Brian. Really appreciate you having on board.
Oh, thanks again for having me.
All right. Thanks, folks. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Star Wars Hour mini episode with Brian Fulton, Darth, Daddy of Customs for the Kid. I'm your host, Brian. We miss you, Joanna Daniel, but thanks for tuning in, guys. This mini episode is brought to you by ChannelStarWars.com.